Hello, FPL managers. Welcome to a new FPL optimized podcast. And guess what? This is episode number 100. Congratulations, Sertalp.
Congratulations to you too, Bas. It's an amazing milestone.
Yeah, who would have thought when we started? We finally made it. Cool.
Finally.
Yeah, I'm Bas, the casual manager, and my co host is Sertalp, the data scientist. This is the podcast in which we combine analytics with the good old eye test. Data or grass, or data and grass. And for the 100th time, that's the question. It's the international break, which is quiet in terms of FPL. So, Sertalp, please share what the plan is for today.
So our plan is for today to answer questions we received on Twitter. We wanted to have more like a QA type of episode, just like we used to do back in the day, and then we changed the format a little bit. But answering questions are always fun, so
Back in the
that's what
day. Yeah, that's
we're
true.
doing.
Yeah, this is our third season, right?
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. So for the people maybe that are listening to us for the first time or only just started listening recently, this is our third season, and as we said, it's episode 100. So yeah, pretty special. We did get some questions on Twitter, so thanks everyone who sent those in. We made a nice selection for today, and we'll start with a few questions about the podcast, and after that, we'll also have a few questions more about FPL and analytical gameplay. The first question, and it is from Carl JB on Twitter. He's asking, which holiday did Bas enjoy most over the last year, and which holiday of Bas did Sertalp enjoy most? Yeah, and this has been a bit of a running joke because I sometimes take a holiday, and yeah,
Sometimes.
Sertalp thinks it's funny.
Often is a better
Often,
word.
yeah, it's a bit different. And again, maybe for people who don't know, Sertap lives in the US. I live in Europe, in Belgium. So yeah, there is a little bit of a difference, let's say culturally, or how to say, policy wise in terms of companies, how many holidays you get.
Hmm.
So it could be related to that. But anyway, yeah. So I went a few times, and if you ask me what's the best one, well, I always enjoy to go skiing because for me that's just fun to be outside, be outdoors, go skiing, and it's also nice to spend time with the family, with the kids on the slopes. So that's one of my favorite breaks, and it's now September, so I'm already looking forward to the upcoming winter season. And Sertab, is there anything you enjoyed most?
I typically ask people about sending me photos when they are going on
Oh,
vacation because I really
yeah.
enjoy seeing the photos. If I can't travel, I can just check the photos, listen the stories. I also ask you, and my favorites are the ones that you actually send me photos. And you're
Okay.
sending me photos to rub it off, like, oh, I'm on vacation while you're changing diapers. But yeah, among the ones you took, I think the Portugal one, I think you sent the most photos from there. So I think
Oh, okay.
that's the one that came to my mind.
All right. Yeah, that was the most recent one.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm happy for you because you have some holidays coming up. So then
Yeah.
I can make fun of you next week.
This will be the first in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you deserve it. To have holidays, I mean. Yes. All right. Thanks, Carl, for that question. And then another question we had from Gaurav D1. He's asking, what have been your three favorite moments from the first 100 episodes? So that's a nice one.
Hmm.
I was thinking maybe we can both pick one favorite moment, and maybe we even can come up with a third one. But for me, I was thinking of the podcast that we did with the FPL General, as I was always listening to him, even long before we started our own podcast. I don't know how long ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago, when I started playing FPL, and I was looking for a podcast. I was looking for information, and at that time there weren't that many podcasts, and I think the FPL General is just the first one that I found. And for a very long period, I was just listening to him every week. So for me, he was really a famous voice, let's say. And then I think it was last year. We and during the international break, we just asked if he would like to come on our show, and he accepted. So that was a really nice episode and a nice experience. And on top, he's a really nice guy as well. So Mark, if you're listening, thanks again for that. That was a nice one. Sertop, anything comes to
Hmm.
mind for you?
I don't know, might be a cheesy one, but I think the first episode was very special to me because
Yeah.
it was a really big decision to start making it. Uh, and also there were lots of technical challenges, so we didn't know what software to use, what kind of hardware
Yeah.
we need. So I want to give a shout to above average FPL guys, as well as Mark Suderns of FPL Black Box, and also Let's Talk FPL Andy. They answered lots of questions I had about all the technical setup, hardware, software. But yeah, publishing the first episode was a little bit. I was a little bit nervous, and I hated listening myself. My voice sounded really weird to me, like
Uh,
most people, and I didn't know like how many people would listen. So seeing the numbers go up was it was just amazing. I mean, after that, I think you get a little bit used to it, but the first time was very special.
yeah, indeed. That was nice. Yeah. And well, Gaurav was asking about three favorite moments. And
Hmm.
maybe I'm just thinking about it now. A third moment for me, even though we never really talked about it too much on a pod, is end of last season because I beat you in our head-to-head competition. And we talked a lot about it during the season, and then going into the final game week, we were, it was a tie. Was it like 18-18, I think?
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't record a season review, so I never really had the
Because you went to
chance
a
to.
vacation.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. And you also never had the chance to congratulate me, actually. But
Okay,
yeah,
congratulations for your head-to-head win, and you started
thank
very
you,
strong this season too. So maybe
thank you.
another
Yeah,
win for you this season
yeah.
is
Oh,
coming.
wow, yeah. The
That
season
will
is
be the
very long.
fourth favorite moment.
Yes,
Maybe.
for me, yes, yes. Yeah, let's see. So yeah, thanks, Gaurav. Nice question. We had to think back through some of the episodes, so that was nice.
Hmm.
All right, one more in this category. It's from Brun. And Brun is asking, I would love to know whether either of you have changed your approaches since the initial episode in any way. Bas, are you sprinkling any data into your approach? And Sertalp, are you touching the fabled green stuff outside at all? So that's a very nice question. And for me, while certainly I get influenced simply by talking to Sertop every week, looking at the charts, and that's also really nice from doing this podcast. Yeah, we're talking about data and analytics, with basically the objective also to yeah, spread a little bit of love for data and analytics, and just get people interested in it. And for myself, also an opportunity to learn, even though I work professionally for a software company in data and analytics, so I know already a bit about it. But talking to an expert like Sertop every week, and yeah, I just learn even more. So that's really nice, and I do use it as food for thought. But it's not like I started using FPL review, or that I started tweaking
Hmm.
minutes or using solvers. I'm definitely not doing that. I still take, in that sense, still more a casual approach, so to say. But on the other hand, of course, I do spend quite some time on FPL, but mostly then on planning, looking at fixtures and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it changed a bit, but I'm still, I would say, I would still call myself a grass manager. Yeah.
Hmm.
And Sertalp, how's your relationship with grass at the moment?
A bit mixed, I will say. I still think grass, or I should say non-analytic
Yeah.
approaches are worse than analytical ones, no offense.
Yep.
And we always say that sometimes models can be like slow, or they can ignore some of the non-measurable stuff on the pitch. Sometimes you say stuff like, oh, this player looked really good. But you look at the data, there's nothing much about it. Sometimes some of these are actually signal, not noise, but you don't see it on the data. And then, from that perspective, I'm not saying that, there's, it's completely useless. I'm not saying it. But for me, it is just very difficult to like catch the games. Like even like watching highlights is sometimes difficult for me. Like
Yeah.
I'm very busy at work. I'm very busy after work
Yeah.
with the kids. So that's why I rely on analytics for quick decision making. Like I don't need to, spend too much time on anything.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe in future though, I would love to watch more games and maybe hope that it could affect my decision making to a degree. Like I'm not totally against it. I just think it's a little bit of inferior. Again, no
Yeah.
offense.
No, no,
Well, you
no, I
beat me
get it.
on the head-to-head, so maybe
Yeah,
that's the way.
it's 2-0, but we'll talk about it next week in our regular episode. Yeah, no, no, but you're right. And as we said many times, there are many different ways to play this game, right?
Exactly.
So everyone needs to find their own way. And to your point, sometimes it's quite difficult to follow all the games. Like on Sunday, I was away for most of the day, so I missed the United Liverpool game, which of course normally I would have loved to see to watch the live. But I did record BBC match of the day, so that was quite nice to still watch that
Hmm.
later. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not always easy. No. All right, so let's switch now to a few questions that are more about FPL and the current season, and also a few of the analytical questions. And one is from FPL Crichton. He's asking, how do you guys think the Champions League will affect player picks from Arsenal, Liverpool, and City, looking at their upcoming fixtures? And of course, we can add Villa to it, I would say. And how do models take this into account? Only through X minutes? Question mark. So yeah, maybe if I start again,
Hmm.
I don't think it's different to other seasons, right? We always had Champions League. Of course, the format changed, and there are a few more games.
Hmm.
But also in other seasons, the schedule was already very busy. So definitely we will see rotation kicking in once the Champions League starts, and also the Cup game starts. And of course, it's not just the Champions League, but it's also the Europa and the Conference Leagues. So yeah, that can always be a bit frustrating if one of your key players doesn't start the game. But I think for that reason, it's also important to have quite a good bench, or at least have one or two good options that, yeah, you never know, you might need them. So for me, that's always a reason to have a reasonable, strong bench. Um, yeah, and one thing also here, I was thinking with City, I'm actually wondering how they will handle it with Haaland, because basically they have no replacement this season, right? They had Alvarez, but they sold him, and they didn't really get another backup number 9. So yeah, maybe they will have another player who can play that. But I think yeah, for Haaland owners, it's probably quite good because he's quite secure in minutes. Of course, unless he gets injured. But Sertap, what would you say about the question, especially related to how the models consider this?
Hmm. Yeah, good points, by the way. I think yes. So the second part of the question says, how do models take this into account only through
Yeah,
X-Mins? I think the answer is yes. That's the big thing, right? So you reduce the expected minutes for some players who is subject to rotation risk. Um, so maybe not from a prediction model perspective, because obviously you reduce the expected minutes, you won't see some of these players in your team. But you still want to have players from these teams because obviously they are the best teams in the league.
yeah,
So I was thinking from an optimization model perspective, like how can you do this? So if you don't want to reduce the expected minutes, you can keep it as is, but you can do stuff like, well, I don't want to take too many risks. So from this group of players, maybe you can feed like 5, 6 players. You will say that I want to have at most 2 or 3 because like I can cover with my bench if I have a good bench, so that you can
mhm,
increase the bench weight maybe when you are solving, especially for wildcard. I think it might be a little bit more important. So you can say that I will increase my bench weight and I will limit to at most 3 players from this set of players. I think that's one way of doing it. I haven't tried it myself, but I think that's how I would approach to it if I wanted to take that into consideration. I think for me, I will just solve it and see if I'm exposing myself to too much risk, and then try to maybe eliminate some of the players manually if I think that they are
right.
really risky.
Yeah. Okay. And do you sometimes also maybe manually adjust the minutes, or is that not something you do?
Sometimes, to be honest, I don't really have a good understanding of
Right.
minutes most of the time
Okay.
because like it requires you to maybe follow
Yeah.
the team a little bit more closely. But
Yeah.
I think the analytics Discord is just amazing from that perspective
Oh
because
yeah.
you can always find someone who's crazy about the minutes of a particular team, particular position, like any team, any position. you can find someone talking about it. So I
Okay.
sometimes ask, like, what do you guys think about the expected minutes of these players? And
Yeah.
you often get an answer. So I
Sure.
sometimes just rely on those people
Okay.
who know what they're talking about, or at least it looks like it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. The next question is definitely one for you, Sertalp. It's from FPL Same. And there are two questions actually. One is, has more free transfers affected the optimal wildcard game week? So with the rules this season, now we can
Mm-hmm.
have more free transfers. So what is the impact for the optimal wildcard game week? And the second questions, yeah, when you do look at the optimal wildcard game week, which parameters do you look?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
he's saying, are you looking at free transfers, bench quality? Are you looking at fixtures? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a question for you, my friend.
So the first part, has more free transfers affected optimal wildcard game week? I think yes, but not to the degree that people are thinking. So I feel like people are
Okay.
a little bit overestimating the impact of free transfers. As
Right.
I said before, I think it could have been bigger if they increase the number of free transfers we get every week. Like if they increase it to 2 free transfers we get every week, it could have affected even more. But in this
Okay.
case, it is more about if you can roll enough free transfers so that you can make, bigger operations. Like you can maybe shift the funds from a certain position to the other one very easily. Because
Right.
with 2 free transfers, it is a little bit limited. But with
Yeah.
3 free transfers, you can easily do it. Well,
Yeah.
with obviously 4 or 5, like it's almost like you can replace the half of your team.
Yes.
So the answer is yes. And how does it affect it? I think optimal wildcard game week is a little bit earlier than usual. I'm usually against using wildcard too early,
Mm-hmm.
because like you don't really know what's gonna happen in future game weeks. Maybe you will find your team with like 3 or 4 players who got rotated, injured, or just booked so that they are not able to play in the next game. But if you wildcard early, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you are rolling your transfers for the next 3 or 4 weeks, at least in
Right.
theory. You might need to you might need to be forced to use your free transfers, but it is a
Mm-hmm.
really bad idea to wildcard and then also schedule lots of transfers. That's just a recipe for disaster in my mind, because you will find yourself in the same position with not enough free transfers, but your
Yes.
team got impacted a lot. So
Yeah.
I think wildcards optimal game week is a little bit earlier than usual. I often think maybe game week 8, like around game week 8, like regardless of the fixtures, is a nice time. Maybe game week 8 to maybe I should say game week 12. I think that's a
Okay.
nice range. It
Yeah.
used to be, I should say. But I think this season is a little bit closer to the beginning. I know that lots of people are wildcarding now, and lots of people
Yeah.
are thinking about wildcarding in game week 6. I think they are
Yeah.
pretty good options. So yeah, I don't really think it's a bad decision. And the
Okay.
second part, when I'm running the optimal wildcard game week, what are the important parameters to use? As I mentioned, don't schedule transfers, or just if you are gonna schedule, just 1 or 2 at most. Bench quality,
Yeah.
well, obviously, if you're not scheduling transfers, you need to have a better bench just for rotation purposes. That's most models will do automatically because they want to get the best, better fixtures for everyone. So it is not surprising to see that some of the good players in your team gets benched when they have a tough fixture. But yeah, I wouldn't probably change too much unless I run it and I see that okay, this team has good players, but they have risky fixtures that I'm making them play. So maybe then you can increase the bench weight a little bit.
Mm.
Very team dependent based on which players you are really lacking, because I also heard that when people are running the models, they are getting no Mium, like no Haaland, no Salah. And
Mm.
that's a big decision to make, right? So if you are doing that, you are obviously getting a really good team with the rest of the money. Well, you have lots
Yeah.
of money, so you can spread it around nicely. but that's a big decision. So if you want to force in Haaland or Salah or a premium player, then obviously some of these parameters needs to be adjusted accordingly. So it's a difficult question to answer in general, but that's what I would probably check.
Okay, got it. Thank you, and a good question. And there's another one for you. This one is from Alex Sharp, and he's asking, over a 10-week period, what point advantage would be worth a wild card? So I think he's doing different
Hmm.
simulations. He says currently he has an 8-point advantage when doing a wild card in game week 6 over no wild card, and he's wondering if that's worth it. So how do you look at this normally?
It's just hard to give a generic number that would work for everyone. But I would consider wildcards probably if the point difference is above 10 points. Because I still
Yeah.
think wildcard is valuable. It is not
Yes.
maybe as valuable as it was, but still valuable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
8 points is a bit low in my mind. It's just around 2 hits, which is which is not a big number to begin with, but it's also very close to my threshold of 10 points. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
worried too much about um, whether it's 8 points or 10 points. It's more about how you started the season. Like, did you actually plan wildcarding in game week 6? Or is it more of a reaction that, okay, my team was really bad over these first few weeks. I want to wildcard early kind of reaction? Because, let's be honest, that's why some people are wildcarding now. They are like, they have been unhappy with their team's
Yeah.
performance and they want to
Yeah.
change almost the entire team.
Of
So
course.
I wouldn't try to wildcard if that's the reason. But if you have been planning to wildcard in game week 6, it doesn't matter what the point advantage is. Like I will probably stick with the plan and then wildcard in game week 6 and try to get a team who will stand a longer time period. Because obviously, when
Yeah.
you wildcard in game week 6, you won't be able to wildcard again until game week 21, I think. So it's a
Yeah.
very long period. So
Yeah.
you need to make sure that you have a really good team to cover all those weeks with only free transfers. So
Yeah, that's true. And I often think that people think a little bit too easily about it, right? You're very much influenced, of course, by your current situation. You're looking at your team and you might not completely like it. So you might think, oh, let's hit the wild card, even though it's only game week 4. But, you might be in game week 11 or 12 with having to deal with the same issue, and then you don't have a wild card anymore. So I think, yeah, that's more like a personal opinion. Sometimes I think it's better just to keep it a little bit longer. That's maybe not very much the analytical approach, but just want to say, people should keep that in mind, right? It's quite a long season, and you can only use it once, in the first half of the season. So if you
mhm.
use it now, to your point, there's quite a long period you need to survive without having another one.
Yes. Yeah.
But on the other hand, indeed, if you can build up a few transfers now, like 3 or 4, then of course, yeah, you're kind of covered in that way. But we also talked about that earlier. Like, even though it's now theoretically possible to have 5 free transfers, I don't think we'll see that very much, right? And I think we see that already from the first game weeks. Most people I see on X or I listen to podcasts, at least they use already one transfer. I think it's just the FPL general again who saved all 3, so that's quite good. But also he says, he's been quite lucky, right? He didn't have any players that got injured, or he didn't have any players that got benched. But for many of us, yeah, we did face already a few issues,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's something that can always happen. All right. Well, the $1 million question is coming from Mike Mahoney, and Mike also in the past often send us a question. So it's nice to see today also a question from Mike, and he's asking, yeah, basically he's asking what the optimal wildcard week is. He says if it's not 4, then which is the best week for the first wildcard?
I will
How
let
are
you answer
you?
first,
Yeah,
actually. Like, what
me?
do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't spend too much thoughts on it yet, to be honest.
Are you just gonna keep
Well,
your wildcard and then use whenever you need it?
yeah, but I don't want to keep it too long because that's something I did last year. I think you used it something in 8 or 9, and
Mm-hmm.
I was more like, no, I want to keep it. I want to keep it, and I only used it in 12. And I think in that period between 8 and 12, yeah, I suffered quite a lot. So I was a bit too much stuck on, oh, let's keep the wild card. So I think I need to just be more flexible. Like what, if it's game week 6, 7, or 8, and I think my team can really improve from the wild card, then I'll do it. And I will also, of course, look again at the fixtures and the fixture swings. And I understand that game week 6 could maybe be good for the Arsenal games,
Mm-hmm.
but I think game week 8 is also a week we could look at. So yeah, I'm still quite open to it at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, my thinking is that probably best week to wildcard is, if not 4, obviously, either 6 or game week 10.
Okay.
Because if I recall correctly, there's more of an expected value shift before and after these game weeks. Well, and
Okay.
6 will be popular. And even like solvers, like
Yeah.
if you're not forcing wildcard, it was scheduling transfer for game week 6. Like it was getting Arsenal players. We talked about it in the past.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it might be a good time to wildcard because of it. And game week 10, I think, is also based on someone running a work on this, trying to see how much EV you collect if you wildcard in every single game week. He basically tried 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to, I think, 18. So I think game week 10 is a good one. Besides these two, I
Okay.
think the other idea is to keep your wildcard until they announce what the mystery chip will be.
Yeah.
Because we don't know if it is a team wide chip or it is a like player based chip. We don't know anything about it, basically. So if you if you have a really good team, which is, set up quite well not to bleed EV too much,
Yeah.
you can keep it just to maybe risk a little bit to get a huge benefit. Because if it is a chip that will impact your entire team, that you will get, let's say, multiple points from teams in the bottom half, something like this, something crazy, then
Hmm.
you can actually dead end your team and then
Yeah.
try to use your wildcard that way. So I maybe it didn't make too much sense what I'm saying, but my point
No,
is
no, it
that,
does. It
yeah,
does.
you can keep your wildcard to see
Yeah, yeah.
if the chip will
And
make
there's
an
also
impact.
again the point that this mystery chip is making it quite difficult. It's actually quite strange, right? Normally you play a game and you know the rules when you start
Yeah.
the game. But this time we are playing a game, and yeah, there is one rule that we still don't know. So it, yeah, it might really
Yeah.
frustrate some people towards the
I
end.
think I think this is better than FPL announcing that, oh, we are giving everyone a wild card, after the World Cup or something. So at least we know that, like, well, there is a
Yeah,
known unknown. Like
no, that's
we
true.
don't know what it
Yeah,
is, but we know that it's coming at least.
that's true. Yeah, no, that's true.
But I agree. I agree. We
Yeah.
don't know all the rules, which is annoying.
But so yeah, Mike, different options: game week 6, game week 10, or maybe even keep it longer if you can. So but definitely we'll come back on this also, of course, in future episodes. We'll
Hmm.
keep looking at any EV changes and optimal wildcard weeks. All right. Well, we did receive a few more questions about transfers and using the solver, especially related to wildcard and also related to game week 4. But we'll keep some of that also for our regular episode next week. We'll just have one last question. It's a nice one, I think, to end this special Q&A episode today. It's from Ace Fantasy PL. And Ace is asking, what do you think is the key tip for making it to the FPL top 10K managers? And he's also asking, is having both Haaland and Salah by any chance a must to achieve that goal? Well, they certainly made a good start, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, normally I would say it's not a must, but in general, tips. Well, I never made top 10K, so don't listen to me. But just based on my experience, I think what's important. First of all, you need some luck. I think even Sertalp is saying it all the time, right? There's a lot of variance in football. We've seen that even during the first couple of games, right? I still remember that Trent assist with Jota just heading it wide a little bit. If that goes in, could have easily gone in. That would have been an assist and a goal for me, and made a huge difference. So it's these little things that really play a big role, and that can also be, of course, very frustrating in this game. For example, everyone who owns Eze, if you look at all the opportunities he had and everything he missed during the first two game weeks, can be very frustrating, even though he did really well. But anyway, so luck is, I think, important. But besides that, I think I think you need to be engaged for the full 38 game weeks. Because a lot of people, they start, of course, now at the beginning, the first maybe 5, 6, 7 game weeks, and then they lose interest. But yeah, if you want to do well, you need to really be engaged for the full 38 game weeks, and you also need to plan quite well. Look at the fixtures, try to save transfers when you can. I think that's something I really had to learn during the first couple of seasons. So yeah, that would be my tips. Sertalp, what would you say?
Mm-hmm. I will start with answering the second question. Is having both Haaland and
Yeah,
Salah is a must? Well, despite having a great start, both of them, they're not a must. You need good players in your team who will score points, obviously, but having both
yeah,
of them makes the rest of the team very weak. So
yeah,
you are essentially hoping that they will keep getting points, Salah and Haaland, and well, you are kind of reducing your chance of getting points from other players. I
yeah,
understand that some of the Salah and Haaland teams are doing pretty well at the moment, but
yeah,
they have tough fixtures coming up, and you really don't know if they are gonna keep the performance they have been having so far.
yeah,
So it is important not to get too much like obsessed with the past points. Oh, like
mm,
this guy's just scored a hat trick, so I shouldn't sell him. I don't think that's true. Like if he's having a tough fixture coming up, it's a tough fixture. Like they're not gonna score 3, 4, 5 goals in that game probably, or at least I should say like probabilistically it's really low compared to
yeah.
how many they could have scored to Ipswich, for
Maybe
example.
one exception is Haaland.
I still think that the chance of him scoring a hat trick against a good team is obviously lower. So
No,
spending
that's
15
true.
million, yeah, is a little bit too much. At
But his
least,
average is crazy. Yeah, they've been showing it on BBC the last couple of weeks. He scores one hat trick every 9 games. That's currently his average, and that's
okay.
of course unseen. So yeah,
No, I mean he's a good player. I'm just
yeah,
saying that in terms of fixtures, there are
yeah.
tougher fixtures and there are better fixtures. So
No, definitely, I agree. Yep.
So, in the first part of the question, what do you think is the key tip for making into top 10K? Well, top 10K is a really difficult target to hit. Obviously, you need lots of luck, as you mentioned, Bas.
Mm.
Um, it's hard to give a key tip, but I would say using analytics. I'm sure you're not surprised, Bas. But keeping an eye on the player minutes, planning well, sticking to the plan, not chasing last game week points, and targeting fixtures is essentially what you need, besides the luck. And that's pretty much saying that you need to use an optimization solver. That's what I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, just for to give you some credits, you say top 10K is quite difficult to make, but you did it twice now, no?
Yes, I did twice. Yeah, but
All
it's
right.
difficult.
Well then.
It's
No,
difficult.
no, that's difficult. No, I agree. I mean, I never did it, but yeah, no, no, really, credits and kudos to you for doing that twice.
Hmm.
So listen to Sertop's tips, maybe a bit more than to mine.
I think we said roughly the same thing, besides the analytics angle, I guess.
Yeah. All right, that's true. Okay, well, that's great, and I think we can probably end it here. What do you think, Sertop?
Yeah, agree.
All right, well, that's FPL Optimized Podcast episode number 100. It's a wrap. So, yeah, man, again, I never thought we would achieve this milestone. I'm really happy
Hmm.
with it. Thanks again for the collaboration, Sertop.
Sure. Thank you.
And thanks everyone for listening. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you will get notified when the next episode is out. And you can follow us on X for Sertalp. It's at Sertalp Bilal. For me, it's at BelfiBB. And we also have a separate account for the podcast, which is at FPL Optimized. And for the people who are listening to the podcast, you can also find FPL Optimized on YouTube.
And do you want to say something about your jersey today?
Oh, I can today. Today it's actually not a Premier League shirt. It's an Italian shirt. It's from Sampdoria.
Mm-hmm.
And just based on the discussion we had on Discord, someone really liked the Chelsea shirt I was wearing last time, or maybe the time before, and that was a shirt from the days that Ruud Gullit played at Chelsea. And I was saying I was always a big Ruud Gullit fan. I have this shirt from AC Milan when he played there. He played for a short period at Sampdoria. That's when I got this shirt. I still like it actually. Nice shirt. And yeah, I also have the Chelsea shirt. So this is just related to Ruud Gullit.
Okay, that sounds.
Yeah.
And until next time, stay curious and stay analytical. Goodbye.